Good morning, everyone. So we're on page 63, the last paragraph. In order to explain why going away, married to Cyril, Zayin Cheshvon, leaving TISHRAY, is the same as Lecha, in which Avraham goes to Eretz Yisrael. The Rabbi wants to explain that the distance itself is the Aliyah, not the Pshat. That thanks to the Aliyah, thanks to the Yerida, later you'll have a greater Aliyah because you're making a different Tachtanim, so you'll eventually reach later to a higher level. Because that would still be contradictory to Avraham, who is literally going to Eretz Yisrael. One's Yerida L'tzarech Aliyah and one's just Aliyah. So therefore, there must be that in the Yerida Gufa, that's the Aliyah, not just later, but the experience of the Yerida itself is the Aliyah. And then that's related specifically to Avraham's traveling, as we'll see. So to explain that, the Rebbe, in this one ois, explain the difference between an employee versus a shliach. Two technical differences. That the employee is primarily on the property of the owner, and number two, with the assets of the owner. Whereas the shliach is specifically not near his mishalech, he's far away, and he's usually involved in some task that isn't with the property of the owner, which leads to the more deeper distinction, which is the shliach. His entire behavior is because whatever he's doing is because of the one who sent him. Whereas the employee is using the employer to get a paycheck. So he's thinking about himself. So it's ironically that while the employee is standing directly next to his employer, but in his mind he's much farther because he's taking from the employer. Whereas the shliach is dafke because he's not near the mishaleach. That's why everything he's doing is just for the shliach, for the mishaleach. That's all. Now here in the next paragraph, the Rebbe is going to cite to the famous Rabbi Yosef angle, which I mentioned yesterday, the 3 levels of shlichus. As I mentioned, this is one of the sugyas in the Rebbe's Torah that come up again and again. The Rebbe speaks about the 3 levels of shlichus quite often, especially in the later years. And the Rebbe even in one place articulated a 4th level. That the place that Rebbe articulated a 4th level, the Rebbe speaks very briefly. But in the Sikha that I copied here, which is the Kinos of Tavshin Nun, the Rebbe explains in more depth, in more detail, the 3 levels. But you'll see the way he describes the 3rd level is be'etzem the 4th level, which I think is the Rebbe's main point here. So what we'll do is we're going to learn the paragraph in the Sikha here, and then we'll go to the Sikha in Tavshin Nun and see how the Rebbe really articulates these 3 levels of Rabbi Yosef Engel, 3 levels of shlichus. So the last paragraph on page A63 on the left. The ilu hashaliach, but the shliach, as opposed to the employee, notwithstanding the fact that he's not in the presence of the one who sent him, but considering the fact his function is primarily on behalf of the one who sent him. Here now the Rebbe is going to make mention of the 3 levels. Number 1, that which he accomplished. It's considered it's considered as if the one who sent him fulfilled it. That's level 1, where the action is attributed to the one who sent him, to the Mishaleach. Level 2, more than that, not just the result of what was accomplished is attributed to the Mishaleach, but the action itself, while it's being done, even before it's accomplished, but the very action is like the Mishaleach's action. So if you want to put it, we'll see more language in Rebbe's explaining here. That's level 2, though. Never see here. Meaning that the Mishaleach, the sender, is fulfilling the activity Not just that the result is attributed to him doing it, but the activity that's being done is being done via being done by the Mishalech via the Shliach. Until the higher level, the third level of Shlichus, that the messenger is like the one who sent him. Not just that activity, but his whole personhood is just the Mishalech. Kamoisei mamish never adds. Which in another chinos, they haven't made that into like level 4, Shlucha Shaladam Kamoisei, and then the fourth one was, I don't remember, and the fifth one is mamish. The mamish is another level that goes through those levels also. You can see in 33, there recites to Baruch Lekach Toiv, Rabbi Yosef Eng B'Tchulasei. There recites to this, I don't know how many times, they would discuss the 3 levels of Shluchas. So the paragraph continues. Yeah, it's not like Toiv, but elsewhere in a Fabrening, they never like divided into 5 levels, and Mamish being the 5th level. I don't remember what was the 4th one in between the Shluchah Shalom and Kamoisei and then the Mamish. There's a 4th level there also. It's not non base, it's an Aleph, Kinos non Aleph. Okay, so not only is the activity of the Shaliach that he's doing on behalf of the Mishaleach considered as if the Mishaleach was acting out through him, moreover, Shaliach Atzmoi, Shaliach himself, in his very being, transforms into the being of the Mishaleach. And therefore, what he's doing is effective even in such circumstances where the Mishaleach himself has to do it, like getting married. You can have a shliach to give the kala the ring. You have to do it, but because not just his action is attributed, but he himself becomes, as a person, becomes like the Mishaleach himself. Now, to me, it would seem that in this little last line, it was actually alluding to a 4th level, which he identifies in it's in the letter where it identifies it. And it's a letter to one of the Kenusim in Eretz Yisrael, and I couldn't find it. But it's a footnote there divides it into a 4th level. But there was certainly articulates that those 4 levels in the Sikha here that I sent you. It's on WhatsApp, and it's printed here, a copy. Kinus HaShluchim of Tafshin Nun. Okay. So in this Kinus, as they often did, spoke about the 3 levels of Shluchas. Now, here, there's actually a convergence of 3 different sugyas that come up in the Rebbe's Torah that are all related. Come up a lot. One is the sugya of Deber Tachtonim. Obviously, that's a big sugya. But I'm specifically going to look at the Sichos. And the Sichos, the sugya of Deber Tachtonim, Rebbe's Chedushim, and how we understand Deber Tachtonim. And here, Rebbe speaks about it in the following, dual nature. On the one hand, it has to be a dira lo yisbarach. It has to be a dira for Hashem. On the other hand, it has to be b'tachtonim. So on the one hand, you have to have the koyach of the Eibishter, the Mishaleach. But if you're only operating on the koyach of Mishaleach, then it's not a dibur tachtonim. It's not bit tachtonim. It's Elyonim imposing its view on tachtonim. So you have to also have tachtonim. You also have to be an independent being. Otherwise, it's not a dibur tachtonim. If a malach walks around here and does mitzvahs, it's not a dibur tachtonim. A dibur tachtonim, stress on the word tachtonim, is after when you're an independent being. So you have to, on the one hand, be independent. On the other hand, you have to be only the koyach of Mishaleach, koyach of Eibishter. So that's the duality here. That's already one sugya in itself. But you can see already how it's related to the topic here of shlichus, where the person is far away from the Mishaleach, and after because of that, everything he does is all the Mishaleach. Right? This duality. That's one sugya that comes up in this Kinus of Tashinun, which is, again, to be found in a lot of places in the Rebbe's Sichos. And another sugya is this chidush of the Rebbe. There is emphasis on the fact that there's no such thing as something is only valuable because it's got to bring something else later. No such thing. Everything has its value for what it is right now. It's a sugya shleima in the Rebbe's Torah, including halacha also. The hechsher mitzvah, the hechsher mitzvah itself is valuable, not just because it's going to lead to a mitzvah later. The famous Sicha on Perk Yavis of Af Tzvas B'Tzvas Asuya. I think we once spoke about it on Shabbos. But it's a full sugya in the Rebbe's Torah. There's no such thing as something is leading to something else. And you could see it here also. It's not good enough to tell me That the Yerida is valuable because later it's going to bring it to Aliyah. It's not good enough. The Aliyah has to be in the fact that you're Yerida. And not just compensating. We compensate for your Yerida by with another Aliyah. The very fact that you're Yerid is the Aliyah. In other words, the fact that you're becoming independent, that's the Aliyah. So it has to, and you see it also, of course, in the, you listen to a Sikha of whatever Shabbos it is, and this is the highest Shabbos possible the whole year round. And the next Shabbos, that was the highest Shabbos the whole year round, right? Sometimes 3-4 days in a row, a Sikha, and every Sikha, that day is the highest day of the whole year. Because it's true, because every single thing has its value in and of itself, not just as it's going to lead to something else. Sorry? So it speaks about this also, but first of all, my Rabbi Ches is a part of that. The Yazikar statement does, but that's also a big part of it. Sorry? It goes through this in 1,000 different ways. It's okay. So these three sugyas come together in the Sichos in Kinos Ashluchim Toshin Nun. So our 133 on the top there, it's a Yiddish. This is Yadua. Never finish explaining the two components of Dira B'Tachtonim. On the one hand, you have to have the koyach of the Eibush there, because it's Dira Lo Yisbarich, it's a Dira for Hashem. On the other hand, it has to be B'Tachtonim, which means that you, as the Mishaleh, as the Shliach, have to feel independent. And the way they were put it is like this, because I was comparing it to the story of the Shlichus of Eliezer. On the one part, there is the fact that you're appointed as a Shliach. Like the Mishaleh gives you the koyach. From appoints Eliezer. And the other point is the fulfillment of that shlichus as an independent being. Those are the two parts. You're being appointed as a shliach, and then you're fulfilling it as a shliach. Okay. Simple words like this. See, it's well known, but that which it says in the Achrayim, the Poskim is referring to the same Lekkutei, the Yosef Enkel that we're talking about here. As in shlichus ein paran, kam leifanim madregas. And in shlichus there are different manners and levels. Identifying levels from below to above. Aleph, number one, even at the moment when the shliach is fulfilling the mission, is there shliach and metzias b'fnei atzma. Shliach is an independent being. When the ma'isa hashlichus, the action that the shliach fulfills in his shlichus is the action itself is associated and attributed to the shliach himself who's doing it. Narvas mid zayin asiya is there moitzi the mishalech, but with his action he fulfills the mishalech's obligation. Meaning to say, that's the first level there, where the accomplishment of the shliach is attributed to the mishalech. The action is the shliach's action, but what he accomplished is attributed to the one who sent him. Level one. Beis, level two. The maisas v'asiya gufa, the action itself while he's doing it, from the mishalech of the shliach, is ascribed to the mishalech. Thus says this means as nit der shliach tut es. It's not the shliach doing it, and then the net result is attributed to the mishalech. Now the mishalech tut es. The mishalech is doing the activity. Durch en, through the shliach. But still at this level, the shliach alein, the shliach himself, is in all seine anderen yonim, and everything else but for the activity of the shlichus is a metzias b'fnei atzma, is an independent being. It's only while he's doing that action, and only whatever effort is required to doing that action is the mishalech acting through him. But he himself remains an independent being with his own ideas and his own feelings and his own things. Level two. Level three, a higher level. Not only is the shliach's activity, and not only is the net result attributed to the B'Shaleach, but moreover, the Shliach Gufa, the Shliach himself, sein ganze Metzias, his whole Metzias, is the Metzias, the B'Shaleach is the B'Shaleach. V'loshen ha'yedua shluchei shel adam kamoise mamish. Kamoise the B'Shaleach mamish like the B'Shaleach. If you were to stop here, and you didn't go any further to his explanation, and this is very often takat the beer, this highest level means that the shliach has no independent idea. He has no independence. There's no independence. It's out. It's just the b'shalech. That's all it is. He doesn't have any ideas of his own. But as we're seeing from the Sikha there, and as we're about to see in a minute, it's dafka when the shliach is not near the mishalech, right? So he does have his own independence. So how does this work? He has his own independence, but it's the highest level of shlichus where it's kamosh mamish. And in explaining that, elsewhere the Rebbe identifies it as a fourth level. But here the Rebbe like kind of embeds it into the third level. So let's see. By a shlichus from the boss of a dog, when it comes to a human shliach and mishalech, we're talking about halacha, zan shayach and da al draifan. All these three levels exist. As Rabbi Yosef goes on to explain at length, halachic examples for all these levels. But again, there's shlichus from Yeder Yid. But when it comes to the shlichus of every Jew, al shlichus shel Baruch Hu, Hashem's shliach, Yesh Leimar, the Rebbe says, the mitzvah is as their hechter. It goes directly to the third level. That's the level, only level that exists in a relationship between a Yid and Hashem, not the other levels. Meaning, what are we going to say? A Yid has his own ideas, and only when he does a mitzvah, then the mitzvah is attributed to Hashem. Of course, it's the highest level. It's just Eibush there acting, not acting through a Yid. The Yid himself is completely a mitzvah of Eibush there. That's it. As he's a shliach of Hashem. Like the Mishalech Mamish. Like the Mishalech, talking about the Eibush there. They ever used a similar expression, but they get actually Hakel, that the king, that Rambam writes, is the king is Shliach Hakel, is the Shliach of Eibush to relay the words, but when the Rambam writes that you have to envision that you're at Har Sinai by Hakel, he explains, because the king is only Shliach of Hagvura, Shliach of Hashem. And then we spoke about the king being Shluch Shalom Kamaisai, Mamish, of the Eibush. And here they were saying it's about every Yid. Okay, so this is the Metzias. And the Shlichus that Hashem empowers a Yid to do his Shlichus is at the highest level, where everything about him is the Mishalech, everything about him is the Eibush. But in order for that to be expressed consciously, and not just in Indian, my whole life is the Eibush, because that's what the Eibush decided. That's the Shlichus that the Eibush empowered me. But actually, I should experience that. So it's das tolle in der Avodah von Haiden. This is the Avodah. As soll feeling, he should feel as there is nito mitzvahs for sich. He's not an independent being. He is an independent being who has to deny his existence to serve Hashem. As if he was his moitzi at zweiten bebracha, like one person who fulfills another in the bracha. So I make a shackle, you say and you drink. So we're independent beings, and I'm giving you some of my own effort. Right? So the net result of what I've done can be attributed to you. It's my mouth moving. That's the lowest level. So that's not the relationship between me and Hashem. As if I do what I want, and I'm just like giving gifts of activity. When I feel in it, as I might Baruch, and not even on such a level 2, where what he's doing is the mice of Hashem through him, but he remains independent being. And as soon as he's done the mitzvah, he's back to himself. No, but rather, his entire existence. And therefore everything he does is a shluch Baruch Hu is Hashem's shliach. The shamash is going to serve Hashem, kamoise the mishalech mamish, literally like the mishalech. Now mamish, which is usually translated as literally, says that in the parentheses. Mamish is oich malosh and mishush. Mamish also comes from the term tangibility, touchability, tangible. As oich shayach gefindt sich in olam ha-mishush, even as he finds himself in a very tangible world, especially because he has a body, he's a shluch shel Baruch Hu. He's Hashem shliach. As metapt das on mit mishush. You can touch with your sense of touch. Oh, this is Hashem shliach. So even when he's not, quote, fulfilling his shlichus, he as a person is a shliach. His whole mitzvah is the shlichus, is a mishalech. So Rabbi says, move on. So now based on this, we understand. So now we understand why this first half of the shlichus. Right? I mentioned that the two parts to the shlichus. One is that you're being appointed as a shliach, you're being given the koyach of the mishalech. And number 2, your fulfillment as an independent being. So now we understand why the first part is so important. Because you somehow have to transform into another being. Not me, Eibishter, everything about me. Va'alule is there nit zainer shliach, because not the act of being appointed as a shliach, talking about an halacha here, you're not the person as shliach. that etzem toya shliach, the very term shliach, badait, as there is a budzunde metzias, indicates there's an independent being. This is similar to our sikha here. A bardas, a person with his own opinion, his own independent ideas and opinions, for the mishalech, that's different than the opinions of the mishalech. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a shliach. He'd be a robot. He'd be an extension of his hand, not a mishalech, or an employee. Yeah, some places. Here's the difference. It's different here. He'd be like an employee. An employee doesn't have opinions, at least not so long as he's working for the employer. They're doing a job, and that's it. So because he's an independent being, that's why he's a shliach. You have to have a special power to koyach Torah. As einer, that one human, so can that one human can appoint another human. So for him, turn as to do something, in his agency, and that he should become me. Even if it was only the first level, where you do something, it's counted as if I did it. As is nor and he only fulfills the mishalech's obligation. Allah has come to certainly you need the power of Torah that empowers me to appoint someone else as a shliach. If I was going to go to the second level, as Maisa shliach and Maisa mishalech, that this person's activity is my activity. Okay, now here comes the next two paragraphs is the key that I want to highlight. So you see the three dargahs as they are classically. So again, if we stopped over here, our assumption would be at the highest level, you have no opinion. It's just Eibush there. But now that was going to change it around. The same thing is true of a Yid as a Shliach of Hashem. As the Eibishter had him geschickt as a Neshama beguf, Hashem sent him down as a Neshama in a body, but often in such a manner as begaloy steht as a Metzias steht b'fnei atzmai. In such a way that as far as his manifest behavior, he's an independent being. And darf ton sein avoda the koyach atzmai. He has to do his shlichus with his own koyach, with seine eigene koyach, his own capacities, his own abilities, the kav shaloi, with his own measure. Right? Elsewhere, there talks about this. Right? Other notes of a kav shaloi, a person wants one measure of his own rather than 9 measures of someone else, because it's your own effort. It's only kav echad, but it's your own. And then it talks about that shliach also, that the shliach wants it to be his avodah. Yeah. So notwithstanding the fact that he's an independent being, exactly. And that's the irony here. This is why I said elsewhere it's a fourth dargah. As of them, notwithstanding the fact that he's an independent being with his own independent ideas, with his own desire to have to put his own mark on the world, so to speak, is there shliach, he's completely self-surrendered to the mishalech, to the point that he's literally like the mishalech. Now look in R29, this is unbelievable. There says, can add. What's the true perfection of this idea, where the shliach is independent with his own ideas, his own contribution, but it's all mishalech. Is shliach margish, the shliach feels, the very fact that there's a shliach, mishalech, independent being, it's not because I want to be independent, but it's a gufa because that's the Eibishter wants. Not because I want to make my mark on the world. Because the Eibishter wants me to make my mark on the world. It's you can think about this for 100 hours and still be mind blown.
Eibishter wants my independence.
Yeah.
So everyone wants your independence, yet he wants you.
In Ganzen. And he wants your independence and your ways of thinking and your ways of thinking. That goes on to talk about later in the Sikha, that you have to have your own moichin, midas, rotzing, tainug, your own unique version of it. Because you're an independent being. And all of that is mishalech, all that is for Eibishter alone. So it's kav shaloi. This is the fourth dargah in the shlichus. There's kamoisim mamish, and the fourth level is kav shaloi. Rabbi Avram Shem Tov talks about this, and he says the story. The way he says the story is, Never told the lawyers at the Heitevis trial that I want you to behave like lawyers, not like chassidim. But as lawyers, I want to win your mind. Meaning, don't say, okay, the Rebbe is smart, the Rebbe is a Rebbe, so whatever you say, we'll do. Even if our legal opinion says otherwise, we'll shut it off because we have to do it. No, you have your legal opinion. And in your legal life, in your legal opinion, you're going to agree with me. from your legal opinion. Your own legal thing, you're thinking, your own way of doing research, and in all that, you're going to see it's me. That's right. This is a sugya shlema in the Torah. The result is this last paragraph before his vav. As by Eden, there is a chibur from Sveif Akartik Sovus. By Eden, there's a combination of two opposite ends. Bekim shluchus es fulls in the shluchus to machen libet atem to bekid betachtem. Der Shliach there seine bar das. The Shliach has to have his own opinions. He has nutzen sein seichel but the ois for the shluchus. He has to use his mind to do the shluchus. They did not say that earlier. Earlier, when he described the third level of shluchus, kamoisin mamish, he described their whole mitzvah is there. So finished. They don't have an opinion. But now there was changing that a little bit. And when it came to the halachic definition of shlichus, he didn't say that you have your own opinion, because you don't. It's the Mishalech's opinion you have to fulfill, even if you become the Mishalech in your entirety. But here, when it comes to relation with David, it's a whole other level. It's another level. You have to have your own opinion and your own version. But along with this, completely self-surrendered to the Mishalech. Visindik as get he's going with the power of the Mishalech, and therefore he is like the Mishalech in his independence. So now with all of that, let's go back to the main Sichos here and how it relates to Zayin Cheshvon. I check out the rest of the Sichos that says it in more explicit terms, because I'll talk about this point that we talked about there, that it's not just a technical detail that the shliach has to be like this in order to fulfill the shlichus. But this itself is the etzem of the whole shlichus. The independence of the shliach and his surrender of his independence for the sake of the mishaleach is itself the shlichus, not just when he does it, not just when he accomplishes. In other words, the oifen in which he does shlichus is also part of is itself part of the shlichus. This is the big Tishray Beis ever speaks about this also. Tishray Beis. This idea comes up quite a lot. Okay, so let's see now the next place. Hey, similar to this distinction between the employee, who at best is one of the lower levels of shlichus. Probably not. It seems that they're saying that it's even lower than the level of than shlichus, because he has no independence. But ironically, he's selfish. I want the paycheck. Whereas the shliach is all about the mishaleach. And yet, ironically, he has his own opinions and his own ideas. He's independent, dafka, otherwise he wouldn't be a shliach if he wasn't independent. Right? That's never said in that sichah. That's in title shliach, badai, it indicates that he's independent. Otherwise, why do you have to appoint him as a shliach if he's not independent? So Meinzel has the Baruchnius same is true, something similar to this, is the distinction Baruchnius in Avodas Yisrael between the Avodah of a Yid. It's mind-blowing here. Basically, the way a Yid is serving the Eibishter as he stands before the Eibishter in the Beis Mikdash, in the locale of the master. He's in the Beis Mikdash, he's in Tishrei, Lebein Avadosam. To the service of the Avodah of a Yid, each Yid in his own place. So when a Yid is in by the Beis Mikdash, it says, every person who sees the face of the Master Hashem, as Pnei Hashem Lecha, you see the Eibishter. The same way you came to see the Eibishter, you came to be seen by the Eibishter. Yehudim Jews both came to the Lirois for Lisboig as Gilul Lukush Beis Mikdash. They came to absorb the revelation of Hashem in the Beis Mikdash. So who's the center of the story? Me. I want to receive a Lukus. To see the miracles. Right? They used to bring the Lechem upon him out for everybody to see the miracles. Umakim Shchina, Kohen Bavadosam, Levim B'Tuchanam, to see the drama of the Yidden serving the Eibishter. All that is for him. It's all for me. I came to Tishrei, I need to absorb Belakus. I need to refuel my tank. So Lachas for literally is Gilei Shchina. I came to experience and to see revelation. Like a neshama in Gan Eden who is enjoying the Eibishter. When they leave there, so that's like an employee. We're selfishly motivated. I'm getting my paycheck. I come to Tishrei, I'm getting a paycheck from the Eibishter. When a person leaves there, and every person goes home on Zayin Cheshvon, I'm not going there to see the face of God. That's not why I go to work every day. The opposite. They experience Eibush der Lakos much greater in Tishrei mode by the base of Mikdash. Before God, base of Mikdash. So why are they going then? If they have nothing to gain. Why? Because it's not about me, it's about Eibush der. I'm a shliach. But in order to fulfill the mission and objective of God, the key material mitzvahs, more broadly, that's why I'm going to work every day. For me, in my opinion, we'll stay in Simchas Torah all year long. So it's not about me anymore, but the Eibush der. Dafka because I'm going away. Dafka because I don't feel the Eibush der. Dafka ozu nasa shliach. Then he becomes a shliach. So it's not about the net results. The question is not about how much I accomplish in my shlichus. The question is the etzem becoming a shliach. That's the aliyah. So it's not, if I put up with enough distance from Hashem's going to give me a cookie at the end where I'm going to experience a high level of lakus because I made a different tachtani. The avodah of doing a different, it's almost like, and actually there was cites to, okay, not yet. There was going to cite to Hamshich Lecha, which there were also cites to in the Sichos Tafshinun, where he talks about here, for example, that going to the Bismitish is like Nenem Mitzvah Shechina, it's like Elam Haba. It's like Mashiach also. Mashiach, he quotes the Mishnah. And he cites the Hemshech Lecha. Where there in the Kocha, the Rebbe Marash explains that every mitzvah is greater than all the Giluim of Gan Eden and every level of Gan Eden, including the Mashiach. But the whole beer there. But over here, they were making the point that if what you're doing is enjoying the Eibush's company, then you're at the center of attention. And therefore, in some way, when you're done the shlichus and Hashem repays you for your shlichus, so to speak, you went down a darga from this darga, at least, from this perspective. So it's dafke when you're not feeling the Eibush there, and you're Zayin Cheshvon and you're going back to work, and not because even accomplished, not accomplished, that's question number 2. But the etzem mitzias, that now my focus is what does Eibush there want, that's the aliyah. Because now I became a shliach.
So that's level 2.
Why is that level 2? It's kav shaloi, but it's shluch shal b'kamoiser. It's kav shaloi, but it's even the kav shaloi, his independence itself is shluch shal. Because why am I going? It's not like I'm going for my own personal gain. So I make a living and I enjoy Olam Haza. But since I'm here in the Eibush's mission, I'll do a mitzvah for it. No, the only reason why I'm leaving Beis Midrash is because you're asking me. So the very fact that I have independence is because you asked me for independence. It's like that footnote there.
So where's level 2?
That's why he said in Sichos Tashanun, when it comes to the Eibush there, it's only the highest level. Right? They said that in Tashanun. He spread 3 levels in halacha, but between a Yid and Eibush, it's only the 3rd level. Now, but then the question is my avodah. How much of that am I living begolui? But it's for the Eibush, it's the highest level. The only question is to what degree am I doing avodah to attain the highest level? But the avodah is not to fulfill the shlichus; it's to become a shliach. It's not. So again, it's that same point. It's not. You become a shliach because there's a shlichus to be done, and this becoming a shliach is a medium to fulfill the shlichus. Your shlichus is to become a shliach. That's Zayin Cheshvon. To have your independence, and my independence is only because it's what Hashem wants. My own ideas, and I want to make my mark on the world, and all the beautiful things, my own seichel, my own midas, my own version of serving Eibush there. But it's because this is what Hashem wants. Becoming a shliach. Okay, so more on that Be'ez Hashem, and how it brings back to Avraham Avinu, who actually went to Eretz Yisrael tomorrow Be'ez Hashem.